In South Dakota, there is only one abortion provider operating in one corner of the state. And there is not a doctor working there every day. Typically, it's just once a week. So once a week, a woman can go to this one place, to this one Planned Parenthood clinic in this one part of the state. To get there, women often drive 7 or 8 hours one way to get there. And when a woman arrives, if she wants access to this supposedly constitutionally protected right, first she has to sit through an anti-abortion lecture written by the state legislature. She is required by South Dakota law when she arrives at this clinic to be given a lecture that is designed to talk her out of her decision. The lecture will include her being shown a booklet on fetal development and shown information on a state website that directs her to so-called crisis pregnancy centers that are also going to try to talk her out of getting an abortion. Then, after the state-mandated politician-scripted lecture, she has to wait 24 hours before the procedure can actually be provided. So if she's one of those patients who has driven 7 or 8 hours to this one clinic in the corner of the state, she better get a hotel room or sleep in the car, maybe. Once her 24-hour waiting period is up, the doctor is required to offer the woman a medically unnecessary sonogram and to record her response to that offer in her medical records. Then it's time for another state-mandated lecture written by politicians. The doctor is required by South Dakota law to read her an anti-abortion script that includes a laundry list of medically dubious or scientifically disputed claims about the health risks of abortion, at least one of which has essentially been suspended pending the outcome of a lawsuit. Then, after that, she is required to sit and wait after that lecture for 2 more hours. Only after that can a woman in South Dakota have access to abortion services. That's the law in South Dakota right now. That's what you have to do right now if you are an American woman who wants to access your supposedly constitutionally protected right to an abortion in the great state of South Dakota. And remember, that doctor's only there once a week, so time it out wisely. However, on March 22nd, South Dakota's Republican governor, Dennis Daugaard, signed into law what is probably the most creatively draconian anti-abortion law in the country. Under this new law, there is a new 3-day waiting period between when a woman first meets with a doctor and when she can get the abortion. What does that mean for those women who drive 7 or 8 hours to the corner of the state to South Dakota's one and only abortion provider? What does it mean for the doctors that clinic flies in about once a week to provide that service? It means that what they're calling a 3-day waiting period is actually, for all intents and purposes, more like a week-long waiting period, as best as we can tell. We've been asking around in the state. No one's exactly sure how this is expected to work yet. But the new law doesn't just extend the waiting period to 3 days. It tells women what they have to do with that time. Get this. Under the new law, during the time in between the first state-mandated scripted lecture and the second state-mandated scripted lecture, and putting her decision whether or not to have a medically unnecessary ultrasound in her permanent medical records, during the new 72-hour waiting period between all of those obstacles, a woman seeking an abortion will be forced by the state to visit a so-called crisis pregnancy center, where she will be lectured at by anti-abortion activists about why she should not be having an abortion. Crisis pregnancy centers are not health centers. They are not counseling centers. They're not medical in any way. They are, generally speaking, anti-abortion organizations run by anti-abortion activists whose mission is to stop people from having abortions. A 2006 congressional investigation targeting centers that received federal funding found that 87% of the centers that were contacted by investigators posing as pregnant teenagers provided false or misleading information to those supposed pregnant teenagers about abortion. The law in South Dakota that forces women to go to a crisis pregnancy center to discuss their decision to have an abortion with anti-abortion activists before they're allowed access to the state's already limited abortion services. This new law takes effect July 1st. So here's the awkward part beyond all that. So far, none of these crisis pregnancy centers have registered with the state to become part of the new law, to be the place where women are forced to go to when they want an abortion. What does that mean for the law? Again, nobody's quite sure. South Dakota's Attorney General refusing to clarify to the Argus leader whether abortions would be prohibited if no pregnancy center registers with the state, saying, quote, "We plan on addressing only those issues that arise and become an actual controversy." I would very much like to see what counts as an actual controversy in South Dakota these days.